Come blast off in my time machine. Third eye feeling like an Evazine. Blast off, blast off, blast off, blast off. Come blast off in my time machine. Third eye feeling like an Evazine. Blast off, blast off, blast off, blast off.
Blast off on another episode of Hero Paranormal Podcast. That's right. My name is Ryan, the original outlaw of the airwaves, bringing you an epic episode tonight. And on today's episode of Hero Paranormal Podcast, we have Janis Keifer Moore, paranormal enthusiast, researcher, and longtime friend. Not only is Janis passionate about the paranormal, she is constantly striving to learn more about it. When I owned and operated the Strawberry River Bed and Breakfast in the Uinta Basin of Utah, Janis was not only my favorite client, but also one of the most frequent. So it comes as no surprise she is on the episode today. On today's episode, we are going to discuss various things, among them the Urantia book, sometimes called the Urantia Papers, or the Fifth Epical Revelation, a spiritual, philosophical, and religious book that originated in Chicago sometime between 1924 and 1955. The authorship remains a matter of speculation. It has received various degrees of interest ranging from praise to criticism for its religious and science content, its unusual length, and its lack of a known author. We'll get into other stuff too, but let's get to it. Janis Keifer Moore, welcome to the Hero Paranormal Podcast.
Thank you, Ryan, for having me on.
Oh, I'm excited, and there's so much to discuss. And
tons, yes.
You know, you have been interested in the paranormal for a long time, and whether it was back when we were trudging along the Uinta Basin of Utah looking for high strangeness, or ghost hunting in Salt Lake City, you've always kind of kept your pulse on things. I was really interested when you mentioned this Urantia book. For the listeners, you know a lot more about this than I do. What is it, and how did you come about finding out about it?
Well, honestly, I knew about it back in my college days, back in my 20s. And I purchased it, and then it was almost too heady for me at the time. I couldn't even conceive of what it was talking about in the beginning. I couldn't visualize even in my mind, the hierarchy of the things they were discussing. But it really started with a lady who went to this husband and wife doctor team in Chicago, the Sadlers, and she went to get help for her husband because he would go to sleep. She couldn't wake him up, and he would be talking about things that scared her. She didn't understand it. So she had originally gone to get help for her husband. And one thing led to another, and they realized he was in a trance-like state, and he was dictating information. And so they started hiring, a scribe and someone who could take the notes of what he was saying. And all these documents came out, and it really started about 1911. But all the information was not compiled. All of the readings were not compiled into book form until I believe it was the 1950s, about 53, I believe. And so that is what began. They don't know the authors because it came almost through channeling.
You know, it's interesting that the authorship remains a mystery because a lot of these books and a lot of this information and sometimes even technologies, it seems that a lot of people claim that this stuff is almost channeled, like you say. And
right.
It's just wild how that comes about. Now,
well, along the same lines, was Edgar Casey, and he dictated quite a bit. His story is also unique. Excuse me, and how he started going into trance-like states and dictating information primarily about health and cures for the human conditions.
It is strange. Edgar Casey is one that just baffles me. You know, the skeptics have tried so hard to debunk so much of what he's done, and it's practically impossible.
I know, it is. I got into him back also in my early 20s. And my parents actually belonged to the organization that was developed around his readings, the Association for Research and Enlightenment, the ARE. And they had meetings at our home and of like-minded people and discussed all of that. So I've been into this form for a very, very long time, since, my early teenage years. But what drew me to it again, quite frankly, is I was losing all faith in everything. I didn't believe anything anymore. I just couldn't do it. There was nothing showing me that there was any rhyme or reason to this universe. So I kind of hit rock bottom, and for some reason, I thought about the Urantia book, and I went on my Kindle, and I bought a copy. God, you can get it for less than $4 on a reader, electronic version, and I started reading it, and again got overwhelmed with the first part of it, because there's so much in it that we cannot conceive, because our understanding is not there. It's just not there. Our brains can't grasp all of it. So, I suggest you just take a chapter at a time. I would read maybe a couple of pages, then I would have to put it aside and lay back with my eyes closed and reflect on what it said and try to put it in some kind of order in my mind, try to imagine it. And it's very hard, the first part of the book. And so I kind of cheated. I skipped on over to some other things just to break it up and read more. And then it became more and more sensible to me. And frankly, it makes the most sense to me of anything I have ever read about spirituality or religion, anything. It's so concise and so detailed about the life of Christ. It goes year by year from when he was born, telling what he did in his life, what it was like, what he was feeling, what he was doing, everything. And it's nothing like what we've been taught.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it is and it isn't. There's a lot that is also in, the Old Testament and the New Testament, but it is just a scratch of the surface. Those books were written, 200 to 400 years after the life of Christ, and the New Testament anyway. And it's been changed through the years and added to, and we just don't have the complete story. Old Testament, my mom always used to say that the Old Testament is man's idea of God.
Mm-hmm.
And what they thought he was all about. And so there's just a lot of, I wouldn't say misinformation, but misinterpretation of a lot of what these authors were trying to say. And a lot of it's missing. A lot of it still is missing. And also, as my mom and dad said, it's still being written.
Absolutely.
So, I couldn't go by that because, frankly, the Bible always confused me. It's like, this doesn't make sense. This doesn't make sense. This is too simplistic. This is silly. And I just couldn't imagine a God full of wrath and punishment. I thought that was awful. I mean, to me, it was almost like a comic book describing different battles and things that went on. I thought, no, come on. This doesn't sound like it's advanced. So I've searched, that.
Uh-oh, I lost you there for a minute.
She got me. Ryan?
Yeah, there you are.
Oh, okay. All right. It's in 4 parts, the book.
Mm-hmm.
And the first part, this is telling us about the central universe and the super universes. And that's really hard to follow. Then the second part is about the local universe, which is what we're part of. The third part is the history of Urantia, which is actually Earth, or the planet Earth and our universe. And the fourth part is the largest, and it is the life and teachings of Jesus. But within these chapters, if you will, there's detailed accounts of, it explains a lot from the Bible, the sons of and daughters of this and that and the other. You wonder, who were these people? What are they talking about in the Bible? Well, this explains it. And it does go into the fact that we are not the only life form that was created in this universe. There's millions. They have different physiological bodies, if you will. Some cannot be seen by us. Everybody is made up of different chemistries, and every species, different chemistries, different for different reasons. And some can be seen, some cannot be seen by us, because our spectrum of sight is so limited. And so reading through all this, it's really, so many things are popping back into my head about ghosts, about Skinwalker, and the whatever they saw there that looked like a cloaked figure,
Mm-hmm.
that you could just see the air movement, but you couldn't see exactly what it was. It reminded me of that. It's all starting to swirl around and come together in my mind.
It's fascinating. And there's no surprise that it's received criticism, of course, as most
Of course.
And whenever you have content like this, it seems like the easiest thing from a human perspective is to try to debunk it, or at least that's what some of the population does.
Oh, yeah, myself included. I see no contradictions yet.
So neat.
Absolutely no contradictions with other things I've read, other books, other information, between, the Bible and Edgar Casey readings and other esoteric readings. I don't see any conflict. I only see and more detail
Mm-hmm.
on it. And what makes more sense to me than anything I have ever read. And I'm absolutely, mesmerized by it. And I've only been reading this fully for a week.
Mm-hmm.
So, again, I have to stop, sit back, reflect on it. I try to, find any flaws in it. As a matter of fact,
Mm-hmm.
I'm an idiot because it was giving these exact dates. Jesus was born on August 21st, 7 BC. And then information about 3 BC, 2 BC, all this, I was going, wait a minute, you're going backwards instead of forwards. This doesn't make any sense. But I realized that's how it is in the BC years. Oh, my God, I was laughing at myself. I thought, okay, Janis, it's not going backward. It's going forward towards AD years. So, confused by that.
I think I probably would have been too. And the coolest thing is that you're mentioning Edgar Casey, because I just recently spoke with a gentleman who's an expert on an area called the Pennyroyal Plateau in Kentucky. And it's one of the largest geomagnetic areas in the United States, if not the largest, a huge anomaly. And it seems like some of these areas, much like the Pennyroyal and the Uinta Basin, Sedona, and other parts of the world, where you have these unusual spikes in geomagnetic, electromagnetic fields, etc., there's an interesting correlation with just synchronicity and coincidence. And Edgar Casey is, like I said, from that area. So it's really strange how all these things seem to be in layers. And and Chicago, the time that we're discussing, that area was just chock full of ceremonial magicians, all kinds of esoteric groups. And it's just a matter of fact, not speculation, but I mean, it was just, it seems like it was bursting at the seams with all this information. So it's really neat that the book is, in some way, shape, or form, its origin is kind of from that area.
Yeah, that's very interesting. And a lot of the explanations in this book also make me think of and relate back to Tesla. He was on the right track.
Yeah.
Absolutely on the right track. And electric and magnetic powers have everything to do with tuning in more to our planet and our universe.
It really does. And, our brains, our hearts, we are literally, defined by small electric pulses. And yet,
exactly,
it's so funny that or a majority of the population disregards some of this information and speculate. It's really a revelation to me that, of course we're going to be tuned into particular things that are electromagnetic.
Right. And also it can be an adverse reaction as well. Because we're so limited in this three-dimensional world that something that powerful can, of course, damage us. And we have to be very careful in how we use it and try to harness it. But to me, the flow can be very beneficial if people learn how to use it correctly.
I think so. I mean,
it's part of who we are. I mean, the spark that flew, that touched off everything, that touches off life. It's absolutely amazing, and it is still a mystery.
It is, and it's funny how, we have, for example, let's just take the medical field, and we have like a pacemaker that with a very small, like you said, spark or electromagnetic pulse can keep us alive. Yet we will walk by or under, power lines or transformers and just think that we're completely immune. It's just mind-boggling to me that people don't realize, and I don't know where to sit on 5G. I don't have enough information. But there's so many things like that we eat out of microwaves without fear. And we're just not, I don't know if we are, like you said, fully awake or aware of our surroundings.
I don't think we are at all. I think we're still infants in every aspect of living in this three-dimensional world. I think that we're still babes in the woods. And we need to progress. We need to evolve more in order to understand more. But everybody's focus is on all this day-to-day living stuff. They don't take enough time out of their day to reflect, to meditate, whatever it is that makes them sit still and think about this world and how they can better it. There's not enough people that are turning their focus that way to create the evolution that we need in order to live a better life, take care of the planet, things such as that have been from what everything I read, we as humans have been entrusted to take care of, and we're not. We're simply not.
No, we're blowing it. And it's funny that you mentioned that, because it does seem like when you look through history, those who make the biggest contributions, the philosopher class, the elites, etc., are those who have more time to, as you said, ponder the long game and not be dealing with the short game of day-to-day life. And it's usually those that are philosophizing, speculating, and really tapping into whatever it is.
Well, as Christ said, you live in the world, but not of it.
I love
not
that.
be of the world. And he kept his focus on the big picture.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And of showing us, trying to show us how to do it ourselves. But, this world right now is so consumed with materiality that they're not prone to reach higher than that at this stage. So, evolution's going to be, more evolution. It's constantly changing. And it's gonna get us there one day, but not until people start looking within instead of without.
Isn't that the truth? And I should mention, you're in upstate New York, correct, Janis?
Right. Mm-hmm.
And from what I understand, that area has really kind of blown up through this pandemic. People leaving the city, trying to get back to the roots, trying to get back to basics.
Well, I haven't seen a lot of it here, but I'm up in Binghamton, so I'm kind of on the border of Pennsylvania and New York, right in the middle of the state. So I'm 3.5 hours away from the big city, north of it. So that may be true of the city, but up in this area, it's pretty much same as it was when I got here. I don't see any mass exodus to come up here, but I'm sure there's a lot in the city that have gone north into some of the smaller, little hamlets and villages there, and still commute into the city. It's not that hard.
I think you're right. I think they kind of get limited at about that 2-hour mark. They don't want to be too far from the hustle and bustle. And,
right.
It reminds me, speaking of a couple hours from the city, the Uinta Basin compared to Salt Lake City, it seems like the more rural areas tend to have more going on. In the area you're in, is there a lot of that?
I don't hear too much about it up around here lately, but there has been some here and there. But the biggest one, of course, was in the 60s at Pine Bush.
Mm-hmm.
And to this day, Pine Bush has their little UFO festival every year. But because of all the attention it attracted, they've banned people from going to the spots where the UFOs touched down, and one was a Jewish cemetery, so they've kind of banned people from hanging around and trying to get in there and, research and stuff. But Hudson Valley's known for it. So you're getting up around Poughkeepsie, where the Vanderbilt mansion is, and FDR's home is in Hyde Park, which is right by Poughkeepsie. And Hudson River seems to attract a lot. And that's a big, big river, let me tell you.
Yeah.
Like nothing I've seen out west at all. This is humongous river.
It does seem like water has something to do with a lot of these anomalies. And getting back to the Uinta Basin, you used to come up all the time. We spent a lot of time out there. The more I learn, it seems like the less my theories change.
Yeah.
What
They have to, because nothing seems to ever be the same twice out there.
No, it doesn't. It really, it really doesn't. It just when you think you're getting a grasp of it, you're flipped on your head and you have no grasp at all.
Right.
In your opinion, of course, this is a big question. I don't have the answer to it. What do you think is going on up there? I mean, I have to ask everybody that.
Well, honestly, I'm a big fan and follower of quantum physics. And I do believe that there is a portal point between parallel worlds. I really do. That stuff is being proven by quantum physics, and they got a way to go, but they're proving it. And I think it's easy to imagine, like the double rings on Saturn, that there is a parallel existence in between what they called in the old books the veil, passing through the veil. Mm-hmm. That's, to me, a portal to another dimension. So I think there may be other life forms, like was discussed in this book. There's other life forms that are either in a parallel world or possibly coming through those portals and seeing what we're all about. I don't know what's drawing them to the ranch specifically, but as tricky as they are, I'm not sure. They may be advanced. Obviously, they're advanced, but it's almost like their teenage kids are getting across to pull the prankster stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I just think it is a life form that we do not know yet and possibly cannot see. I think that they can appear however they want to appear to us, if they can lower their vibrational frequency enough to become matter. Because, the higher the frequency of anything, you can't see. Mm-hmm. From our perspective, you can't see it. So if they could lower their vibrational essence, then they would appear, it would, become matter, and you could see them. But this is all just swirling in my head from, science and what I've read and what I've seen. I just think it's kind of a portal play between different creatures, and possibly different worlds. I don't know why they think it's so interesting there, but everything to me seems to be underground. Mm-hmm. And there's so much emphasis since, the 90s on documenting and taking pictures and using instruments. And to me, put all that away. Don't sit and try to qualify it first and get evidence. Sit down and try to connect with it on a one-on-one basis where you're not threatening and you can communicate with whatever is there. Offer friendship, communicate, try to draw it in to just exchange information. And put away all the counters and all the instruments and just leave that for later. Because no matter what you do, my God, if NIDS couldn't do it, these guys now, although they're making a great attempt, they're not going to be able to do what NIDS couldn't do.
And it's so true about the instrumentation in science. I sometimes will go up with people and pull out all the gear and you get the praise like, oh, wow, look at all this gear. But the reality is when you shut that all down, when you turn everything off and you just, exactly, more happens. And that is fascinating to me because it's really as if all the gear just gets in the way.
Yes.
And
I
it's
agree.
it really can't pinpoint. You'll get some sympathetic electromagnetic frequencies, K2 meters, things like that. And even
what?
yeah, it just does not do the same as when you turn
You could
everything
get more
off.
you could get more information by trying to communicate.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And try to show that you're not there to endanger anything, that you just want to exchange communication. And to me, that is the best approach to any of that, any paranormal investigation. I don't put much stock into, every time I've hauled around camera, tri-field meter, recorder, all that stuff, it's like it gets in my way. I want the experience. First, I want the experience. I want to know. I want to communicate. Why else am I there? I'm not there to take pictures and try to prove to somebody else. I'm trying to get it myself. Get some kind of back and forth. It just doesn't make sense to me to try to prove to the world something's there until you've even proven it to yourself first.
Very true. And it's the best, I think the best experiences I've had is when I'm with researchers that know more than me. And there's been times when, like you said, I'm clamoring with cameras and meters and all this visual spectrum BS. And, they're telling me, just put that down. You're going to miss the show. And you do. Yeah. You miss the show when you are, it's almost like you're trying to sneak up on something and you're covered in pots and pans clamoring around. I mean, it makes no sense.
Yeah, that's exactly a great, whatever am I trying to say? I lose my thought sometimes, but the thing is, you're right, more does happen. Remember when we were coming back from the ranch?
I do.
We were driving on that straight road, and we looked to the left, and far off, was a neighborhood, a row of houses with their backs to us and the back fences towards us, and we saw a huge tree that was just go up in flames. Do you remember seeing that tree?
Just that red light was so intense and unusual.
It looked like it was on fire from hell. And, I mean, I know it was split seconds. We discussed, well, can we get over there and help? Can whatever? And just a little bit later, driving by, then it was totally dark again. And that was in a neighborhood.
Yeah, and it was a huge tree. I mean, like the burning bush times 100.
It was higher than the house.
Yes.
And it was just blazing red fire. That was strange. I'll never be able to understand that one, but I think it was meant for us because, no lights came on, no anything in the other houses, and you and I saw it, and then it was gone. Of course, you've had a whole lot more experiences than me in that respect, but that baffles me. And everything else out there, I was watching the last episode of The Secret of Skinwalker Ranch, and there was one part of it that hit home to me. The first time you took me out there, you, me, and Adam, I got out of the car. I started walking towards, because you guys were looking at two white orb lights that were up on top of the ridge. Mm-hmm. And so I was walking towards the front of the car, and those two lights looked like they just were coming straight at me in a millisecond. And I started shuffling back and trying to open the door to get back in because it frightened me that it was coming straight at me. In a split second, my mind said, this is what you came out here for. Don't go get in the car. And I didn't open it, and I looked around, and they were back up on the mountaintop. I'll never forget that. And something similar was discussed and shown in that episode last week.
You know, it is amazing the way that these things can range, the ground that these lights can cover. And, you know, a lot of people, there are various explanations, you know, oh, it's just ball lightning. You know, there could be a degree of that. But the way that these things move is just so intelligent.
Oh, yeah. There's intelligence behind it for sure. And, you know, I remember we would hear little girls laughing off in the bushes, and then we went to that other vantage point and heard drums, like Indian drums, and conversation or ritual, whatever was happening. We heard running water, we heard, you know, little girls, and that was all very eerie. And I thought, well, you know, we're out here, and sound carries really far. So I couldn't be sure, you know, if there wasn't some Native American ritual going on where they were banging drums and singing and whatever, but it was very eerie.
Yeah, those moments are eerie, and it's strange how they replicate. It's not the first time, it probably won't be the last, but it almost seems as if the sound travels, but the source is unknown.
Yeah, absolutely. There was too many things out there, and also I don't know. Can I mention your place?
Sure, absolutely.
When we were there, and we were all on the patio after dinner, you know, killing time till it got really dark. And remember Adam and Lindsay jumping up from the step on the patio and running back, saying they saw something on all fours crawling really fast towards them across the pasture? Do you remember that?
I do remember that, yeah.
That was weird.
Super weird.
We didn't see it. Of course, I wasn't looking at the time. Both of them were looking out there, but that was very strange and didn't understand that. But there's been so many things in my life that were strange and I didn't understand. I wish, and someday we'll have the answers, I'm sure. And I think it's all information that all these happenings are things that we just don't understand because we don't have the capacity for it right now. So many things have been discovered through the years that we're still in the baby stages here with this sort of thing. I think we're being introduced to it slowly.
And you know,
so we won't be afraid of it when it actually comes out.
It's true. And it's almost like we're observers are receivers of sorts, because when these things take place, if you have 10 people witness the same thing, it is very strange how some will see nothing, some will see the same thing, and then sometimes you'll get people that see completely different things.
Exactly. It's very subjective. And especially the ranch, I think. The experiences are very subjective. And I do think to a point some things there, and I can't say it's all the same thing at the ranch. It could be different things. But some of them seem to almost feed off the fear.
They love those emotions. They love the highs and lows for some reason. That's
it's
good
like
stuff.
A trickster. But you know, our bodies give off that energy, whether it's negative energy and fear or positive energy, and happiness or profound awestruck emotions. It's going to feed off of that in some way. And I do believe there's positive and negative, and that there is going to be some negative. Not everybody's going to be a nice guy. I'll put it that way. Mm-hmm. Doesn't mean they're going to be deadly, just that they're jerks.
And the trickster, I love to talk about the trickster in the Uinta Basin because it's so cool that what we're talking about, I say we really don't know, but whatever it is, not only is intelligent, but seems to have a sense of humor.
Oh, yeah. And, they may think it's really funny, but it's scaring the bejesus out of people.
Mm-hmm.
And, they know they're not harmful, so they just laugh about it, is, in my mind, what's happening. But, yeah, they're just playing, having fun and getting a giggle out of it and doing something else.
It's interesting we kind of discussed the emotions a little bit because you go out there with gear and very commonly and often, as well as any area that is paranormal in nature, researchers often complain about batteries being drained. Yet,
oh yes,
if we
ghost hunting too, yeah.
If we're electromagnetic beings, which we are, those highs and lows of emotion are much like a battery and probably also drained.
I agree completely. That's the essence. That's what's running through our bodies. And, you break down the chemistry and the chemicals and everything else of who we are. Look at the brain. It's total synapse and electromagnetic happenings going on in there to make it function.
And it is. It's fascinating. It's so philosophical and it can borderline religious when you have these experiences wherever they might be, whether it's a ghost or a UFO or whatever we believe we are observing as the observer. It just reminds me of Frank Salisbury and the UFO display and how important, that it is a display of sorts.
Yeah. I think that they're trying to let us know they're here because the government drags their feet on it. And they're just trying to get us used to the idea that they're here. They've been here for a long time. They could quite possibly have put us here. Who knows?
Mm-hmm. I'm really... Go on.
It's just... I don't know. You have to start going back and thinking, of course, they're going to be a different species altogether, but what are they coming here for, of all places? Well, who knows? Maybe they're coming... They put us here and they're coming to check on us over and over again because of the times, like they showed up over that nuclear plant in, what was it, Montana or Nebraska? I can't remember. And for a good while they were at the front gate, they totally disarmed our nuclear missiles that were underneath.
With ease. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And it's like, no, you guys don't get to do this. Protecting the rest of the universe and other life forms from us screwing everything up. So I think they're there to monitor, to help, and maybe to get, minerals or whatever they need from our planet. Who knows?
There's so many questions, and I'm glad you brought the government aspect and how it's really starting to get into the, receive media attention. I have to ask you, what do you make of all this? All of these pilots seeing these craft in the air and making the media?
I think that they're just trying to open up a little more. The government, I think, is realizing they can't deny this stuff forever. Obviously. Other countries' governments have come forth with some of their files, and so, we have to follow. But we're still not going to give away too much, other than just finally recognize that they're there, they exist. But I don't think they're at a point where they're going to admit that they've been here a long time, and we're probably working with them already.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's been... In the past 50 to 100 years, we have come so far technologically that it's beyond, to me, what we should be at right now. I think they've had help.
Absolutely. It seems we've come a long way real fast. And if I was a parent seeing us, quote unquote, children coming that fast, that quick with our small minds, I would probably be checking in on us too.
Oh, yeah. Who's filling your head with this stuff? Yeah, I think they're working together, and they have been for quite some time, probably since the 40s, 50s. So I just don't understand why I do and I don't understand why they think that we're such a fragile general population that we're going to go insane and, kill ourselves if we found out the truth. It's to me, you got to give Americans a little bit more credit than that. Although there will be those that flip out and can't handle it. So that's why I think they're introducing themselves slowly, being seen more and more to, what do you call it in the psychological term, is to desensitize us. And, now I see it in the air. Oh, yeah, that's UFO. No worries, let's go. It's going to be so common that then they can go to the next stage of introducing themselves. It's like the commercials you see now. This is how it's done, to desensitize by showing commercials of mixed-race couples now, more than you've ever seen them, and also same-sex couples in commercials you've only seen really in the past year. And it's desensitizing people, letting them see it for themselves to realize that it's not the boogeyman. Don't be so frightened.
Yeah, if we did what we do with UFOs, whenever we saw a bald eagle or a vulture, oh my gosh, it's something we should just accept for what it is. Its beauty, right. and its reality, and it's a very interesting dynamic between the UAP/UFO phenomenon and our inability to believe that we are not in control of something. Yeah,
I think that is the bottom line there, is the fear of the powers that be, that they will appear weak. Something better and more highly intelligent and more advanced than us is out there, and we couldn't stop them if we wanted to, if they wanted to harm us, which I don't think they do.
I'm with you. We would be long gone, ranging from thousands of years ago. It is the abilities that some of these fringe elements, like you said, behind the veil, when they display themselves to us, the intelligence and the power that they exert is just so beyond our capability sometimes. I believe as human beings, we like to control things. This is kind of something we get off on. And when we're not able to control it, it's just frustrating. And I do see that frustration in the government right now. I do think they have, they're doing their best, but wow.
I'm not so sure they're doing their best. I think they're doing what they need to do to keep wraps on it, frankly. I also think, look at the things in the myths that we have in this country alone, much less other countries, of Bigfoot. That could be a different form, a different species of life that we just don't get yet. They're so different from us, and maybe they're coming in and out. I don't know. But to me, they're a different species. You go to the Mothman incident in Point Pleasant back in the 60s, and I think that was another life form that was trying to warn them. And I don't know why it was there, but it was certainly next to a military, I don't know what you would call it, a place where they kept artillery or bombs or whatever in those bunkers. And that's where, you know, it was spotted time and again. And I don't think it meant to hurt anybody. It's just that their appearance is so different from us that it frightens us. It's hard to look upon because we've never seen anything like it before. But I think once communication can be established and, you know, no harm, that there could be a great opportunity for learning and exchanging information and ideas and growing. But we can't even accept our own species, so we're not there yet. We can't even accept, you know, some other people from a different race or a different country. We can't even do that yet. So I think it's a ways away, but I think it's beginning.
I agree. It is, you know, and that kind of brings the ghost topic up. We can't even handle the idea of us surviving death. We can't even grasp the idea. And even in an area like Gettysburg, where...
Oh, yeah. I'm going next month.
Oh, my gosh. I'm so jealous. I am so jealous.
Yeah, Adam and Barney are coming for a visit, and we're headed out there to see that. We'll stay a couple of days at Gettysburg.
Wow. I mean, and that I've heard that the rate of sightings there is just phenomenal. And it's a place, you know, here we know what happened. We have the history. We know what took place. We couldn't get along with each other and killed the heck out of each other. And yet we see the remnants of that, and we still... We're fearful of everything that we already know. It needs no explanation, and people still can't handle it.
Yeah, you know, and to me, the ghost business, and I've seen, you know, there's residual stuff, which I think is an imprint in time. And when the conditions are right, with the weather, with the electromagnetic activity going on in the air, that you see this residual stuff happening. Then there's intelligent haunts, which I believe are just in between spirits and are hanging around for one reason or another. Nobody knows. Nobody has gotten that far in their communication with them. But either, you know, they can't move on or they won't. And so you see that, and maybe there's a possibility of communication there. But from what I've seen so far, it's not going to be substantial. I mean, I actually once I had bought some little foam ABC squares, you know, for children. Mm-hmm. And I thought, foam is really lightweight, and if I take those on a ghost hunt, maybe, you know, the spirit will be able to move those into a sentence. But it never panned out. And then take a laptop, see if they can type out the words. But a lot of people, you know, I don't know, it didn't really pan out either. So that form of communication, it must be harder for them. I haven't seen, I felt them. I was at investigation of the Lehigh Museum, and Lydia and I were sitting on a bench in one of the display rooms, and all of a sudden, just to the right of me, it felt like a freezer, like walking into a freezer. It was only on my right side, not on my left. And Lydia can see spirits. And she said, it is a man. And he is not happy at the way we're dressed. So, you know, he was from the 1800s or whatever. We're sitting there in shorts and tank tops and stuff, and said he's not very happy the way we're dressed. And I just felt that cold there. I'm more feeling like that than seeing anything. And then another time when we were you were with us at the Wendover Air Force Base.
Oh, yes.
Adam and I had gone through this one barracks, and straight out the other end of it was the commissary. And so Adam walked right through it really fast, and I was being careful because there were boards, down and stuff and on the floor. And he was already to the commissary door by the time I hit the middle of the barracks. And when I stepped into the center, I felt like I was in a whirlwind drunk. I was struggling to stay upright. I was whirling and swirling, vertigo, bad. And I cried out to Adam, and he didn't hear me. And I willed myself, please, just put one foot forward. Mm-hmm. So I got my right foot forward one step, and bam, I was out of it. I was completely okay. I don't know what that was, unless something happened right there, or it was a portal. I don't know, but boy, I couldn't see. It was vertigo everywhere.
Wow.
I didn't know up from down or left from right or forward and back. I didn't know. I was struggling to stay on my feet, and just one step took me out of it. I can't explain that.
And you have a lot more experience ghost hunting than I do, and it's been a proven fact to me. I mean, regardless of the criticism it receives from people, I think religion and science are also involved with that, because there are those temperature spikes that are inexplainable, and like those vortexes like you just described where you're just taken out of your element.
Oh wow, that was frightening to me. I thought I was going to fall down and kill myself on a nail in a board or something. Go through my brain. All this was going through my head while I was spinning out, and I was scared to death. Mm-hmm. But yeah, that's been my two really obvious things that have happened to me. There was one at a bowling alley when our group first got together where I did use a recorder, and one of our team was sitting over by the lockers in front of the bowling lanes, and I was clear on the other side. And I just walked up to him, see what was going on his end, and I had the recorder on, and he just said, "No, nothing here." I said, "Okay." So I walked back into the little restaurant, bar, eatery there. This was in the middle of the morning. This was 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. And I just rewound my recorder, and when I pushed play, all you could hear above Jim's voice, drowning him out, saying, "Nothing happening here," was opening and slamming of lockers. Loud, loud, loud. And I went, that's weird. Because it wasn't happening there, we could hear it, but when I was there with Jim, it happened. It was on the recorder.
And the recorders, I mean, that's definite proof. I love when that happens, the EVPs, and Jim is a great investigator.
Oh yeah.
I miss our investigations. Janis, I could talk to you all day, as you're aware.
I know. We need to talk more often. I want you to get into this book, and we can discuss that. How about that?
I would love to. We better wrap up for now, at least but
okay.
Can we discuss your Gettysburg trip after you get back, and definitely get
You
more
bet.
into the book? Awesome.
Oh yeah, we're gonna get video. We're gonna be there all night if we have to. Yeah, we're going the 8th and the 9th. We'll be in Gettysburg, so it's only like 3.5 hours from my house. So.
Oh, you're so lucky.
Driving from Salt Lake up to Idaho Falls, it's not a bad drive. So, yeah, we'll do that.
I can't wait to talk to you again, and I can't thank you enough for coming on the podcast. I hope you have a great day.
You're so welcome. Thank you for having me, Ryan.
All right, we'll talk soon. Take care. Man, oh man, I could talk to Janis all day long. So much information, such an enthusiast, such a good researcher, and such a good friend. So passionate about the paranormal, always striving to help others realize things and to learn things herself. Truly, truly a amazing student at the School of Life. And, until next time, keep your eyes to the skies, feet on the ground, but don't forget to take a look around.
Come blast off in my time machine. Third eye feeling like an Visine. Blast off, blast off, blast off, blast off. Come blast off in my time machine. Third eye feeling like an Visine. Blast off, blast off, blast off.